Hello again, this is World News on TVP World, and here are the latest. This war might end the World War I ended, with one side losing the means to carry on, says Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski. But when would that happen, and can Ukraine withstand the Russian invasion until then? Kazimierz Łysiak reports.
The war in Ukraine is a war of attrition, with both Ukraine and Russia dug deep along the 1,200-kilometer front line. Little progress has been made by either side in the past 3 years. And according to the Polish foreign minister, Ukraine is ready for another 3.
Ukraine is planning to continue resisting for 3 years. Our job is to supply it with the resources to continue. And I think the process of the Russian economy suffering has started. And this war might end the way World War I ended. One side losing the means to carry on.
More than 1.5 million casualties in almost 4 years. That's the estimated human toll of Russia's invasion of Ukraine so far. 2/3 of that are Russian losses, including deaths and injuries. But it's not human losses which could prove crucial here.
Well, this can be stopped quite easily if West just start to use the economic and military power it has on its disposal. Russian war doesn't go well. Its economy is weak. We could easily give up enough sanctions to crush Russian economy.
In late October, US President Donald Trump unleashed economic measures against Russia's 2 largest oil producers, Rosneft and Lukoil. His response to Vladimir Putin refusing to end the fighting. While it will take some time for the effects of these latest sanctions to be visible,
if the sanctions are really implemented successfully, then we'll see the effects in the months, in a few months. For the time being, as far as the energy is concerned, we are seeing, first of all, the effects of the European sanctions.
The effects of the sanctions implemented before, even taking into account Russia selling its oil and gas to Hungary, Slovakia, India and China, are tangible. According to a report by the British House of Commons, the joint EU, US and UK measures have stopped Russia from earning $450 billion since 2022. While Russia's gross domestic product remains relatively stable, that doesn't tell the whole story.
Inflation, exchange rates, altogether that means that the real income is probably falling. It's estimated that for example, the public investment has been reduced greatly to find money to finance the war.
All of this means that Putin now has to worry about the impact the war has on those around him.
So an implosion of Russia?
Or Russian leadership's conclusion that it cannot be won and that therefore serious peace talks are necessary. Putin would have to admit to himself that he made a terrible blunder, criminal decision to invade, that it hasn't been 3 days, it's been over 3 years, and that perhaps 3 more years of this is beyond Russia's means.
For TVP World, I'm Kazimierz Łysiak.
In an effort to get Washington back into talks with Russia, Viktor Orban is heading to Washington today. At play are not only the suspended Ukraine-Russia negotiations, but also the US terms of an energy deal for Hungary. On Friday, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban will meet with US President Donald Trump in Washington to discuss a path towards a meeting between the United States and Russia. He will also try to seek relief from US energy sanctions, Orban's chief of staff announced. Last month, the Trump administration put sanctions on state-affiliated Russian energy companies Lukoil and Rosneft. These sanctions could also affect foreign countries that buy from them, such as China, India and Hungary. This will be Orban's first visit to the White House since 2019. Sweden is reaffirming its commitment to the security of NATO's eastern flank. During a visit to Estonia on Thursday, Sweden's Prime Minister underscored the importance of regional cooperation in the face of ongoing Russian aggression. Speaking in Tallinn, Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson emphasized that Sweden is not naive about Russia's intentions. As a new NATO member, he said the country is ready to contribute to the alliance's Eastern Centre mission and support partners in the region. He emphasized that Sweden, Estonia and the wider European Union must prepare for Russia's long-term isolation, saying the situation will not end with the current war in Ukraine. Estonia's Prime Minister Kristen Michal praised Sweden's stance, noting that both nations share the same belief that Russia remains a threat to peace in Europe. He highlighted that Nordic-Baltic defense cooperation is now stronger than ever and that both countries are among the leading supporters of Ukraine, providing political, financial and military aid. Poland is rolling out its largest ever voluntary military training program, one-day readiness courses teaching citizens survival skills, first aid, cybersecurity and basic defense. The government says it's about building resilience against Russian aggression. Magdalena Jakubowska from the Respublika Foundation welcomes this move.
Well, I'm very happy that finally something is going on. Those ideas for trainings and for enhancing the resilience of Polish citizens has been in the loop, in the conversation for the past year or so. And I think it's important to pursue concrete steps and making this happen, because we are over 3 years in the war in Ukraine, and we know that our security is still threatened a lot here in Poland, but also in the Baltic states, which are the frontline states for the war. And I think it's important to build this preparedness. And not only because we need to be ready for the conflict, because that's not my idea that much, but also to make people sensitive to how they can cope with problems and with those security issues, and have this confidence and trust that they are really ready for anything that may come. For example, I was stuck a few days ago in Brussels at the airport because of the drone attacks, and I would like to be trained enough to stay calm and to be sure that I will come back home safely.
Minerals at the center of U.S. attention in Central Asia. President Donald Trump called critical minerals a key priority as he hosted the leaders of 5 Central Asian nations at the White House. A meeting with the leaders of Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan came as Washington seeks to expand its influence in the resource-rich region. The area has long been dominated by Russia and more recently became of the focus of Chinese interest. President Trump called Central Asia an extremely wealthy region, saying he is committed to making America's partnership with the 5 countries stronger. In the Czech Republic, Prime Minister Petr Fiala has announced his cabinet's resignation, clearing the way for billionaire Andrej Babiš to return to power. Babiš's populist ANO party won the most votes in last month's parliamentary election and is now working with 2 far-right partners to form a new government.
As of Thursday, the duty of creating a new Czech government has fallen on billionaire populist Andrej Babiš. His ANO party signed a coalition deal with right-wing SPD and the Motorists Party.
This coalition was formed as a result of democratic elections, and it was actually our voters who determined the coalition. If I remember correctly, there are 2,753,000 of them, and we won 108 seats. Well, the common goal of this coalition was to replace the current government, and that is what united us. Of course, there may have been some differences in the programs, but the important thing is that we agreed.
Recently elected Speaker of Parliament Tomio Okamura wasted no time in acting in accordance with his pro-Russian views, removing the Ukrainian flag from the Chamber of Deputies building.
Česká republika na prvním místě.
The resignation of the outgoing government has also been officially accepted by Czech President Petr Pavel.
Even in resignation, we will continue to perform our duties responsibly and do everything in our power to ensure that the change of government proceeds smoothly, seamlessly, and with utmost dignity.
The outgoing cabinet will continue serving the people of the Czech Republic until a new one is officially appointed.
Far from being agreed on, the Mercosur deal still divides the EU. Speaking in Brazil, the head of the COP30 climate summit, French President Emmanuel Macron says he's rather positive about the possibility of accepting the trade agreement between the European Union and the South American Mercosur trade bloc. But Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk opposes the deal, warning that an influx of cheap beef and poultry could harm local farmers.
In the coming weeks, it's the work that the European Commission will be doing with Mercosur to ensure that these clauses are acceptable and accepted based on the discussions I've had with Brazilian President Lula, Argentinian President Milei by telephone, and European Commission President von der Leyen. I am rather positive, but I remain vigilant because I'm also defending France's interests.
It's not only the European Union's climate policy that is taking a blow due to a shift of priorities. The EU is now looking to water down part of its strict digital rules as it aims to make the bloc more competitive. That's according to Financial Times. The European Commission is considering pausing elements of its landmark artificial intelligence laws amid intense pressure from big tech companies and the US government. While the AI legislation entered into force in August last year, many of its provisions have not yet come into effect. The FT says the move reflects European Union efforts to make the bloc more competitive against the US and China. Also, the European Commission plans to invest more than 500 billion euros to link EU capitals with high-speed rail. The first routes are expected to be launched by 2030. Our EU correspondent Angela Skujins reports from Brussels.
The European Union wants to make it faster, cheaper and more efficient to travel across the continent via high-speed rail. We're talking about a 4-hour commute between Warsaw and Berlin and 6 hours between Athens and Sofia. This is according to a shiny new plan announced earlier this week from the Belgian capital. The aim here, however, is not just to shave hours off the commute, but to also connect the rest of Europe.
The idea is that these high-speed trains will gradually or can gradually replace aviation for the short flights, because it's easier to get on train and to read your book and to scroll down social media and be in another capital in a very short time.
But what are the speed bumps? Cost has been identified as the biggest problem here. One expert told TVP World he estimates that it will cost 540 billion euros to connect all the capitals via high-speed rail. Ensuring that there's enough political will and streamlined permitting processes are also crucial. This is to ensure that vulnerable regions such as Central and Eastern Europe, as well as the Baltics, aren't siloed with their own infrastructure projects, but are connected throughout the rest of Europe. This is demonstrated through the cross-country Rail Baltica project in the Baltic region.
They need to connect with Europe, so they cannot stop the border with Poland. I understand there are already plans and there are construction also to connect with Warsaw. And then they need to go to the rest of Europe. So if you are not connected and you do only you're an island, what we have today, you lose a lot of benefits.
Now, to ensure the pitch doesn't become a train wreck, the European Commission has identified 2027 as a pivotal year. This is the year that all the bottlenecks should be identified, as well as existing rail infrastructure that can accommodate trains travelling up to 250 kilometres per hour. But for now, it's up to the capitals to get on the fast track. Angela Skujins from Brussels for TVP World.
And on that, we conclude this edition, but our train goes on. So please stay tuned to TVP World for more to come.